Chapter 688, Genetic Drugs. Bai Li Changqing's words aroused Zhang Yi's curiosity. What do you mean? Just say what you mean. You know I don't like guessing games, Zhang Yi said discontentedly. Bai Li Changqing laughed and said, indeed, weapons made of Edelman metal and body armor made of nanoparticle materials are all fun things. But those things are after all external objects that can only enhance our basic combat effectiveness. They cannot raise our upper limit. Zhang Yi had an epiphany at this time. You mean, genetic drugs? Zhu Xing once used a small box of washing powder to fool the foreigners in the outer city, saying that it was compound 2, which could enhance supernormal abilities. Logically speaking, that kind of thing should also be on the exchange list. However, Zhang Yi did not dare to use that stuff lightly. Bian Zhenhua's example was still fresh in his mind. Although his strength had increased to extremely high levels shortly after the end of the world, it had also come at a huge cost. In the end, Bian Zhenhua died from the internal injuries he sustained. Zhang Yi always suspected that it was caused by Blizzard City's genetic drugs. Bai Li Changqing nodded. After the end of the world, the pressure faced by the region was also extremely great. At that time, the world was in chaos, and all kinds of mutant creatures emerged endlessly, and even Blizzard City found it difficult to maintain stability. Bai Li Changqing took a deep breath, as if he had some feelings. As the major district guarding Jiangnan, it is necessary to obtain powerful forces as soon as possible to maintain regional stability. Genetic drugs, in fact, were researched many years ago, and the earliest purpose was to be used in the military. At this time, they were used to promote the mutation of aliens. However, for drugs, in the process of research, there must be enough test subjects to verify the efficacy. Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes and stared at Bai Li Changqing. So, you became the test subjects? Bai Li Changqing sighed and said, Captain Bian was one of the first. Zhang Yi sneered. Yes, it was most secure to experiment on you. It had to be loyal soldiers with guaranteed loyalty to ensure that they would not go berserk after obtaining powerful strength. Bai Li Changqing, however, explained, at that time, this was the only choice. We had no choice, otherwise Blizzard City might no longer exist. We had to make certain sacrifices for peace. As soldiers, we will never back down when sacrifices are required. His eyes were resolute. Even in the end times, his beliefs remain the same. Zhang Yi shrugged, I'm in no position to judge you. To be honest, you were truly great. Perhaps you didn't have any other choice at the time. But I only care about whether or not the drug has side effects. If there are even the slightest side effects, it is meaningless to me. Zhang Yi would never allow himself to be injected with a drug whose ingredients were unknown. Bai Li Changqing laughed. With continuous improvement over the years, the performance of the super drug has become increasingly stable. Look, I don't have any health problems. He raised his arm and gave a firm slap on his rock-hard biceps. Forget it, I don't really need it. Zhang Yi declined Bai Li Changqing's offer without hesitation. Bai Li Changqing walked over and put his arm around Zhang Yi's shoulders. I suggest you consider it. Take Compound 5. Bai Li Changqing's expression was very serious, so Zhang Yi asked, what is it? Bai Li Changqing replied, explosive potion. It can give you very great power for a short period of time, but after use, there are also extremely serious side effects. Usually, it is used in desperate situations. You can think of it as a high-performance stimulant. Zhang Yi understood what Bai Li Changqing meant. In other words, it was something to preserve life, right? Bai Li Changqing nodded. Usually I carry a copy with me, and if I'm in a desperate situation, I can use it to preserve my life. Of course, Compound 5 has very high redemption points, and not everyone can afford it. So I suggest you redeem a copy, it can save your life in a critical moment. Zhang Yi suddenly turned his head and stared at Bai Li Changqing. What about when you were in Tianhai City? Why didn't you use it? Bai Li Changqing also said calmly, if you hadn't given Captain Bian Bingpa, then maybe we would have used it. He ran his hand along his chin. To be honest, Bingpa seems to have a better effect than Compound 5. Unfortunately, this biological catalyst from an Epsilon-class alien body cannot be replicated. Zhang Yi was a little tempted. Since there was such a good thing, it would be good to get a copy and keep it with you. Better safe than sorry. The two got into the elevator and headed towards the weapons warehouse and the combat command center. On the way, Zhang Yi asked again about the reincarnation squad. What is the strength of the reincarnation squad, I mean, compared to your Black Robe squad and Deng Shintong's Heavenly God squad? It was no surprise that Zhang Yi would cooperate with those people when the time came for the third encirclement and suppression of Eclipse Moon. Knowing some information in advance would be beneficial to the operation. Bai Li Changqing's face lit up with a smile when he mentioned the reincarnation squad. Theoretically, the 6 investigation teams in Blizzard City are of equal strength, and it's hard to say who is stronger. However, if it is confirmed that there are people with prophetic abilities in Eclipse Moon, then it would be most appropriate to send the reincarnation squad to deal with them. Zhang Yi asked curiously, why? Bai Li Changqing gave a mysterious smile and said, I can't tell you that, because it involves the abilities of the members of the reincarnation squad. Zhang Yi laughed. Actually, when you put it that way, I can guess a little. But I won't say. The names of the investigation teams were not chosen at random, and were mostly related to their characteristics. The Black Robe investigation team and the Heavenly investigation team both had a strong individualistic flavor. Reincarnation Squad. In the name of reincarnation. And it also mentioned the ability to respond to the prophecies of the eclipse moon. Then, it was most likely related to the law of cause and effect. Either it could restrain prophecies, or it could change cause and effect. Bai Li Changqing didn't say anything, and Zhang Yi wouldn't be rude enough to pry. However, Bai Li Changqing came over mysteriously and said to Zhang Yi, when they come back, I'll take you over there to have a look. I guarantee that you'll be surprised when you find out who their team leader is. Oh? Really? Then let's wait and see. Zhang Yi shrugged his shoulders. He thought to himself, it's nothing more than some social celebrity. Chapter 689 Redemption. The two of them walked out of the elevator and went to the first floor, heading towards the weapons warehouse in the back. As they passed by the door, Bai Li Changqing enthusiastically greeted an older man who was the doorman. Brother Wu, are you on duty today? The older man beamed when he saw Bai Li Changqing. Yes. Huh. This friend of yours looks a bit unfamiliar to me. Is he a new team member? The man named Wu Jingheng looked curiously at Zhang Yi. Bai Li Changqing laughed and said, this is a friend from Tianhai City who is helping us with our work. His name is Zhang Yi. Saying this, Bai Li Changqing introduced the man in front of him to Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi, this is my old company commander when I first joined the army, Wu Jingheng. You can just call him Old Wu. Zhang Yi had long sensed that the man in front of him looked nearly 60 years old. However, due to the end of the world, people always looked old easily, so perhaps his real age was a bit younger. But his body still looked strong. His hair was just a bit gray, and his face had seen a bit of the vicissitudes of life. He smiled and said, hello, Uncle Wu, how are you? Wu Jingheng nodded with a smile, you're young, but you were able to participate in the operations of Blizzard City as an outsider from the outer city. You're very talented. Zhang Yi laughed heartily, SOSO, I'm just an ordinary person. Bai Li Changqing said, Brother Wu, we still have things to do, so we'll take our leave first. I'll buy you a drink sometime. Wu Jingheng's eyes lit up, sure. It's been a while since we drank together. You have to remember this. Drinks in Blizzard City are very expensive and ordinary people cannot afford them. Therefore, treating someone to a drink is a very extravagant thing to do in Blizzard City. It is no different than treating someone to a meal at a 5-star hotel before the end of the world. Bai Li Changqing laughed, ha ha ha, I won't forget. The two said their goodbyes to Wu Jingheng and walked towards the weapons warehouse. Zhang Yi asked, is he a comrade in your army? Why does he seem to be in a bit of a Something's not right, is it? Bai Li Changqing's face darkened. Zhang Yi, guess how old he is? Zhang Yi thought for a moment, 50 or 60 years old. 58? He chose a compromise number. But Bai Li Changqing let out a bitter laugh. He's only 46 years old. Zhang Yi was shocked. 46 years old? Then he has white hair. Bai Li Changqing said, I told you before. Apart from those who mutated on their own, a large number of the first group of aliens in Blizzard City were soldiers who participated in genetic experiments. Relatively speaking, Captain Bian Zhengwu was a success. As for Lao Wu, he was a failure. The experiment had a significant impact on his body, causing serious damage to his bodily functions and even greatly reducing his lifespan. However, he did not awaken his superpowers. The higher-ups took care of him and let him work as a security guard in the operations center. Zhang Yi was silent. Blizzard City had also had a very difficult and cruel history. Bai Li Changqing suddenly laughed. In fact, this ending for him is not the worst. At least his life is guaranteed. There are also a group of brothers who did not survive the painful experiments and died. The two men chatted idly and arrived at the weapons warehouse. Zhang Yi handed over his own points card. According to what Major Yan Yun had said before, Zhang Yi's authority level was very high, and he was able to exchange for weapons, equipment, and supplies that were far superior to those of other foreigners in the outer city. Bai Li Changqing said directly, Don't you want the black battle suit? Just tell him directly. He said to the quartermaster who managed the warehouse, Exchange for the SLDS-2 battle suit. The quartermaster officer looked up Zhang Yi's points and ranked through the equipment and said calmly, The SLDS-2 battle suit, 50 million points for redemption, requires permission level A or above. You meet the redemption requirements, with a point balance of 420 million points. Then he saw a new addition to the system data. It was a special project approved by the commander's office. Other people redeeming black battle suits are subject to quantity restrictions. Even members of the investigation team could not apply for a second suit as long as the first one was not damaged. However, this time, Zhu Jing had specially approved Zhang Yi, allowing him to exchange for multiple black battle suits. There is no limit on the number of exchanges you can make. How many suits would you like to exchange? The quartermaster asked Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi thought about it for a while and then asked about Compound 5. Compound 5, do I have enough authority to exchange it? The quartermaster nodded. For Compound 5, you need level A authority and 100 million points. You meet the requirements. Do you wish to redeem? Zhang Yi couldn't help but let out a breath. This thing is even more expensive than the black battle suit? Bai Li Changqing laughed. I told you, not everyone can afford this life-saving thing. Even I only kept one copy. But after using it once, there basically won't be a next time. Bai Li Changqing laughed heartily. But Zhang Yi always felt that smile to be a bit bitter, at least that was how it seemed to him. This showed just how strong the side effects of Compound 5 must be. But Zhang Yi still chose to redeem a copy. Even if there were even greater side effects, being able to save your life in a critical moment was very important. However, for Zhang Yi, its greatest use is another. He can take it back to the shelter and let Zhou Kur and Lu Karen analyze its composition to see if they can produce it themselves. However, since Compound 5 has been redeemed, Zhang Yi has also become interested in the other compounds. He asked about the functions and prices of the other compounds. The quartermaster patiently explained each one to Zhang Yi. Compound 1 has the effect of helping people awaken their superpowers. It can increase the probability of awakening, and the success rate is increased by 20%. Redeem 150 million points. Bai Li Changqing whispered a reminder, it says 20%, but in reality the effect is very average. Zhang Yi nodded, probability, I understand. He had played a lot of card games in the past. Compound 2, the effect of which was to enhance the abilities of aliens, could help aliens evolve to a certain extent, but the effect was unpredictable due to the user's own aptitude. Redeem 120 million points. Compound 4, a military stimulant, could enhance the ability strength of aliens by 20% within 12 hours after use. Side effects were significant and could be accompanied by symptoms such as dizziness, vomiting, and dehydration. Redeem 20 million points. The quartermaster introduced several other compounds. Zhang Yi, however, keenly noticed that Compound 3 did not appear on the list. So, what about Compound 3? He asked. The quartermaster, however, calmly looked at him and said, Compound 3 is not on the redemption list. Oh? It's quite mysterious, Bailey Changqing said to him. The drugs were developed by the research department. Some of the potions have special effects and are not open to the public. Even I am not sure of their effects, and I don't even know if they exist. But these things are so expensive. Zhang Yi couldn't help but sigh. Apart from the stimulants, each dose of the other potions cost more than 100 million points. He had thought that with 420 million points in his hands, he should be able to splurge. Unexpectedly, reality was so cruel. Bailey Changqing winked at him. If you join the investigation team, you can become a full member, and there are internal discounts on these things. Zhang Yi suddenly understood. A big reason why these things were so expensive was that they were open to the public. Ordinary soldiers and civilians in the city, or foreigners from the outer city, would have to pay a higher price if they wanted to redeem them. Special forces such as the investigation team in Yanyun, however, had more friendly prices. There was no way around it. It was only natural that there was an internal price for something that they themselves had made. Zhang Yi asked quietly, then can you help me exchange it, and I'll transfer my points to you later? Bailey Changqing smiled awkwardly. The exchange of these special items is all registered, and it's not very sensible to try to pull any tricks. Zhang Yi helplessly shrugged his shoulders. After weighing his options, he finally decided that there was no rush to exchange the black battle armor for the time being. After all, when he went on a mission later, it was unlikely that old Zhu would begrudge him a set of battle clothes. He wanted to exchange the drugs back first and give them to Lu Karen and Zhou Ke for research. So, he exchanged 4 potions, which cost him a total of 390 million points. He suddenly only had 30 million points left. Although this was not a small amount, it was enough to exchange for a lot of ordinary food and weapons. However, Zhang Yi did not lack those things, so there was no need to go shopping.